Hey, Grace Avenue and Grace Chapel families. I'm sitting here with Alleigh and Raymie. We are in our worship series right now entitled Widen the Screen, and we're going to have a series of different conversations around our own personal perspectives on things in our own stories of transformation and how God has been working through us to help us see the world more broadly, to see people and not just their stories, and to hear their stories as opposed to treating everything as a lightning rod issue. So here we are. So glad that you guys are here with us. And Alleigh, you've already shared a little bit in a different conversation, but now that I have you here together, would you mind sharing your story? I mean your story.
As a couple?
Yes, collective story.
As a couple?
Yes.
Sure. We've known each other for quite a long time. Back in, I don't remember the exact date, but we've known each other for a very long time, and our paths crossed again, both in education. We've been married since March of 2018, and we now have one beautiful little girl who we've been able to adopt, and we just received the news that we're able to adopt our other little girl in November. So
Congratulations.
We are a busy, loving, on-the-go family. That is us.
So we are a licensed foster parent, so we have had multiple kids come through our household in the last few years. So I think what led us to Grace Avenue and what led us really back into finding the church where our family fit was really when we had small children in our house, and we wanted to ensure that we were able to find a church home that would surround them with the same views, the same beliefs, and the same faith and understanding that we'd both had as children. And so it's really important for us to build that community. So now as we continue to grow our family and our kids get more and more involved in the church as they get older, it's really important for us to, really teach them those core values that we believe in of, putting God first, putting others first, and putting themselves first when they're making decisions, and really building a really affirming, accepting household for our kiddos.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Growing up in church, because this, I think, for a lot of people is going to feel like cognitive dissonance, because there's still a lot of conversation in the faith circles around sin and same-gender relationships. There's a lot of that. And so, but you guys found a church home here.
Mm-hmm.
How's that been?
It's been life-changing. I actually found Grace Avenue under very difficult circumstances. For one of my other friends, I was coming to an event here. But it happened to me, we were actually looking for a church home, and it was during Pride Month. And I'm not kidding you, we had been looking for a while, because we had just been looking, because we are very adamant about not just going to an accepting church, but an affirming church, because they're very different in our world. And there was a rainbow flag on the marquee right when I drove up, and tears came into my eyes, and I called Raymie immediately, and I'm like, we have to come back on Sunday just to see what it's about. So that's how we found Grace Avenue, and it has been very, again, pivotal in our relationship, in our journey through foster parenting, because there has been the past 2 years have been pretty difficult with one of our cases. Billy, Laura, the community, they have been nothing but welcoming and supportive and loving, and I feel like we hit the jackpot here, honestly.
Yeah, and we had visited churches all throughout DFW, and we had really been searching for somewhere that was super diverse, super affirming, and then also had a wide range of ages and opportunities for our children to participate in. And so from the first time we came here, it just felt like home.
Mm-hmm. Very Grace Avenue-esque.
It is.
Welcome.
Welcome home.
Okay, so you guys have, you're a couple, you find a church home, right? And a church home that's not just accepting, right, or welcoming, but affirming, mm-hmm. which I know is, like you said, big difference mm-hmm. between the two. So here we are in this affirming church, but one of very few in this area, mm-hmm. right? Not just DFW, but Frisco. Mm-hmm. What challenges have you guys seen as far as being Christians who feel affirmed in your life?
I mean, I think you, earlier you talked about like just going to church, and we talked about we were raised in church. And I was raised with faith, and I was raised, early on, we were involved in the United Methodist Church, and our families went. And then we went through a long period of time where we didn't really go to church. But faith never left my family. So when I say I was raised in the church, I was more raised in the belief that there was always this unconditional love and this faith that we can rely on and that we can go back to at any point. But like I said, as we started having small children, it was so important for us to be able to find a community that we could really be a part of and our kids could participate. As we visited churches, it was very hard to find an affirming church that also had a wide range of families and opportunities for children. So we found a couple that it felt okay for us, but we knew it wasn't right for our kids. And so we knew that we still needed to continue to look to find where we would fit. And so I think the biggest challenge we've had over the last couple of years, I mean, let's just talk about it, was COVID. Like church stopped, like getting people back in. So both of us have ushered some. Alleigh ushers more than us here. So just seeing everyone coming back to church and welcoming new people on Sundays has really like re-energized us for like the future of the church and where we're going. All the Sunday school classes opening and just the opportunities for our kids has really been exciting lately. But I think that all of us are going through a journey of refiguring out because we really had to rely on our faith through this process, but faith looked different because we couldn't go to church and, whatever normal is, and we couldn't participate in things. And even now as we do things, what can we safely participate in? What can we not? What can we open up? And both of us professionally and personally are dealing with that almost on a daily basis. So I think that's been a big challenge for us in the last couple of years.
So I'm gonna try to widen the screen a little bit here in our conversation. I have a couple of friends and family members who identify as part of the queer community, and they speak of what they've experienced as some level of racism. Have you guys ever seen that at play?
Yes.
Okay.
But I've never been the type to let it bother me. Again, because as I told you earlier, like I have been comfortable and confident in myself that people are going to say what they're going to say, even today. I mean, people are going to say, again, they're living their life based on their experiences and how they were raised and what they know. I'm not going to fault them for that. So yes, I have. But I don't let it get to me. Unfortunately, we live in a very cruel world. So I feel it's my job and my mission to respond with compassion and kindness, because that's how we change people. So yes, we deal with it. We have, but I don't let it. I don't let them see any hate because I don't feel hate inside. So.
And the reason I ask is a lot of people just assume, if people fall in this category, then also they must just be all around progressive or whatever the case may be, right? But we all, I think we learn, right? As people to people, you mentioned earlier, people to people, right? So we all have different spaces in which we're all like kind of just like, okay, what do we need to learn more about, right? Grow more in. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for answering my question. I know that was a ringer.
Well, no, I know. I think with any situation, it's about building relationships and getting to know people. And when people know how normal our life is and how normal our professions are and our beliefs are, it's part of like having that compassion to understand that part of my job is to like, I don't want to say educate, but to make people understand that just because we're all different doesn't mean that there's anything wrong or anything unique. We've had situations as foster parents where people feel like we can't raise a boy. And that's been super hard for us to process through because we know the kind of life and the kind of opportunities and the kind of support we can give any child that comes in our house. And so I think those kind of things happen. And so I think that's the equivalent of kind of what you're talking about. It's just, I don't want to say small-minded, but it's someone who's coming from what they know and what they understand and what they think to be true. And so I think part of us is living our life so that people begin to understand that maybe that what they think is true really isn't the truth.
That's helpful. So we've had a conversation about your life as a couple a little bit, and my interest has peaked at the conversation around whether or not you all be capable of raising a boy, because there are single mothers who raise boys all the time. And one would think that two heads are better than one in any given situation, right? So what's that been like, just in the foster process in general? Like, I mean, like you said, the boy piece I know is one of the pieces, but have you guys felt any of that in the foster process at all?
Not. I mean, we're with an agency that is very inclusive. I mean, that's why we went with the agency. So from that regard, no. I think with this situation, that was the first time that it was very evident that it was because we were a same-sex couple.
And I think when we started the journey, we really looked at what agencies had the same type of beliefs that we did and that were going to support us through this journey. So our agency has been amazing. But ironically, this situation, not ironically, but it happened in a very small county, in a different setting it's not here where we're in a big city. And so I think that goes back to what they've experienced, what they've lived life, and maybe they have a lot of people that maybe aren't living their truth around them, or they've alienated because of their truth. And so it came from that situation. So it was hard for us to process, but I think that we were also surrounded by a lot of people during that time that were just as, for lack of a better word, appalled as we are, that was still a thought, or that was something. And so they were very supportive and affirming of the fact that, yes, this child is in the right place with the right people. But I mean, it's been hard, and then people assume, but this is with foster care in general, people assume people go into foster care for some of the craziest reasons. And so, all we can do is love the kids that are in there and know, yes, we will adopt a child that doesn't have a safe place to go. But at the same time, we understand that foster care is about reunifying when it is a safe thing to do. And a lot of times people judge even on that, like, why are you doing it? Is it for the money? Is it just so that you can adopt kids? And it's a much bigger, there's much more to it than that. So it's been a hard journey, but I think at the same time, it's obviously super rewarding, because we wouldn't have the experiences we had, or our two daughters, if we hadn't gone through that process.
So, Raymie, I heard you say something about truth as a Christian family. What is your truth?
What is my truth?
As a Christian family.
Oh yeah, so our family focus is to love God, love people, and love yourself. Because as humans, we're going to falter. It's inevitable, but you can never fail in love in those three things. And I mean, if our kids forget everything, like, those are the three core values that we live by personally as a couple, and that we instill in them every single day. In all of our actions, words that we use, reactions, everything. It guides our family.
And I think by living that way too, you teach your kids that this is always a safe place to go. Like, that's the one thing from my upbringing I remember, is there was nothing I could ever have done that I couldn't go home, or that I couldn't go back to my mom. And so when I see people in the world that don't have that, that's what I want to make sure my kids have, that there's never a conversation they can't have with us, there's never a mistake that they can make that they can't come back and talk to us about, that it's just a safe place. Because with faith and with family, and if you love yourself, all of those things are going to work out in the end.
Well, thank you both for sharing. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.